Hello, and welcome to another episode of LSVT Global's podcast, Think Big and Loud, where we share inspiring stories, expert insights, and engaging conversations, all designed to empower and uplift the lives of individuals with neurological conditions and those who love and support them. My name is Beth Peterson, and I'll be the host for your show. And today we are joined by Dr. George Ackerman. He is the founder of Together for Sharon, a global Parkinson's advocacy and community initiative that was born out of his journey caring for his mother, Sharon, as she lived with Parkinson's and Parkinson's related dementia. So, through storytelling, connection, and collaboration with patients, clinicians, and caregivers around the world, Dr. Ackerman has turned personal loss into a powerful movement that's changing how we talk about Parkinson's and how we support those who are living with it. So, Dr. Ackerman, welcome to the show.
Thank you for your time, your audience. I have to say I'm a big fan and supporter of LSVT Global, and it's just an honor to be with you today.
Well, thank you. We're, of course, glad to hear that, and we're excited to share your story with our audience. And so, with
Thank you.
that, I'd love to hear and share kind of your origin story. So, for those listeners who are meeting you for the first time, can you share the story behind Together for Sharon and how your mom, Sharon's Parkinson's diagnosis, set that journey in motion?
Sure. I'm from New York, raised there. Mother had two boys, and she was kind of upset she didn't have a girl. So we, grew up in New York, moved to South Florida in '95. I always had a passion for helping victims of crime. I wasn't sure how to do that, so I went into the world of law. And then, so I was a lawyer in Florida and D.C. Then became a police officer, and then did a PhD in criminal justice. And my dissertation was on aiding African American mothers who lost their loved one due to crime. All of a sudden, I'm not still even sure why today, my whole life kind of was stopped short and never really the same when my mother's diagnosis got worse. So really, I don't understand still again today why it rapidly occurred the progression so quickly. But on about the fourth year before we lost my mother and best friend Sharon, she experienced a lot of symptoms, voice. She went from someone who could walk a few miles to the last 4 years, slowing down tremendously from a walker to a wheelchair, cane, and then bedbound. But she battled Parkinson's. Again, I didn't even know what it was. I didn't know it was a disease because she battled for about 15 to 18 years. And I'm not sure if she didn't tell us much about it because she didn't want the family to be upset, or she herself didn't know, much about it, or that it would have progressed. So my journey as a caregiver began. I never knew what that word meant, never dreamt at the young age of 69, we would lose my mother. But she had gone to a special trial, and I don't know the whole deal or what happened, the specifics, but she came home and we got a call to rush over to our house at 4 a.m. and I found her moving her furniture out of her home. And I asked her what was wrong. She said they thought there was someone in the house that was going to harm her. So we rushed her to the hospital, and they said we saved her life, but we found out she had now hallucinations and delusions, which I never heard
Mm-hmm.
of in my life. And that was really my journey as a caregiver where it began. So since then, we did everything we could. It's 6 years later. I'm still grieving, really. I miss her, but we decided a week or two after she passed that why not start a website in her memory, but just hoping that 3 or 4 people would see it. And as of today, 6 years later, we've had over 60,000 people visit the
Wow.
site, and more than I can even dream.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So you've done a lot. So it's amazing just your own personal trajectory. And then I see on top of that with caregiving for your mom and now with the organization. So I think you were kind of touching on this. I wanted to know if there was a moment when you realized that you wanted this to be more than a personal story and then evolve it into more of a public advocacy moment or movement for Parkinson's.
Yeah, I don't think I would be the man I am today or have the successes that I've had if it wasn't for the support of my mother.
Hmm.
I even look back and see, even my graduation pictures from my law degree, from the police, and from the PhD. My mother was literally on the left of me or the
Mm.
right on stage when I was getting my diploma. And I always said, I almost quit all those 100 times, but she always encouraged me. So when she passed, I feel like she lost, 15 or more years alive, and then likely 15 or more after she passed. And I was very upset, still grieving again today, but felt she shouldn't be forgotten because of Parkinson's. And we decided to never let anyone really's memory be forgotten just because they lost their battle. That's what really started Together for Sharon. But we also fight, of course, for those battling today and their families because we felt very alone. I wish I had known about LSVT then. I didn't really know anything. I was just kind of thrown into a situation that never could dreamt of even today. But my mother raised me to never give up. If she met you today or was here, she would say, George, don't do all this advocacy, spend time with your family. But she didn't, raise me to just kind of move on. And until there's a cure, there's many nights tirelessly. I'm up 24/7 trying to think of ways to reach people who aren't aware.
Well, thank you. We're very grateful. I know the whole Parkinson's community is grateful for the advocacy work you've done and that you did make this a public movement for them. So I know it's now a worldwide community. And what do you think people connect with most when they find your platform?
I think they see someone who's passionate, somebody who doesn't literally want anything. Like, that's the one thing that's sad, though, in 2026, that when I do this, I have to explain that I literally, don't want anything. I just want a cure. I can't bring my mother back, which I wish we could. I thought about it, but there's no way. And then I scratched my head. But I, just don't want. I always think of my mother and my family when she was struggling, and how we didn't know where to turn. It felt like one of those whack-a-mole things at the carnival where you just kind
Mm.
of everywhere you turn, you just don't have an answer. And I just wish I knew about, all of you. I wish I knew about your listeners. I wish I knew there were other people. Again, we didn't know anyone else had Parkinson's in the world because we were just not sure. And I don't want other families to have to feel alone, and I don't want anyone to have to battle this disease. That's really my main goal and why I do this literally 24/7. Some nights I'm still up, just trying to figure out what happened still.
Hmm. Yeah, and you're mentioning that Parkinson's can be isolating. So how do you think that your community helps people, both patients and caregivers, feel less alone?
I think, well, just an example is you. You inspire me and all of
Oh.
your listeners because, again, the only thing that breaks my heart today is that there are journeys out there that I'm not aware of. And when I have tough days with my own health or just life, or, thinking of my mother, how she would be next to me right now if it wasn't for Parkinson's, I get down and sad and frustrated, but then thankfully in a good way, there's some positive in social media, and you
Hmm.
look on whether it's Instagram or there's a beautiful community of Parkinson's awareness on TikTok. But when I happen to just for 1 second see a story of a gentleman running 7 continents and breaking world records, 7 marathons in 7 days for Parkinson's. It just changes my life when I see four individuals who now are considered like my family rowing a boat throughout the country and the world, for organizations and donating 100% to different Parkinson's, organizations. That changes my world, and everyone out there inspires me, and that's what really is the lifeblood of Together for Sharon and why
Hmm.
I can't rest. Some days I have, I always am told I've broken the rule as a caregiver. You're supposed to take care of yourself first, but I didn't do that because I never knew how much time I had with my mother, and I never wanted to regret missing a minute. And then today,
Hmm.
I'm breaking it as an advocate because I don't put my health in. I mean, even when I had 4 back surgeries, I came out of anesthesia and I had my phone advocating for a Parkinson's cure. So
Wow.
I just feel like Parkinson doesn't take a break. So why should I?
Wow, that's amazing and very inspiring. So, for listeners who aren't very familiar with Together for Sharon, can you give us just kind of a big picture overview of what you do, like the kind of the overall mission and what exactly you're doing and how people can be a part of it.
When I was going through the caregiving and my mother's diagnosis, we didn't even know anything. We didn't know who to speak to, what if anyone else was out there. So we started the website, had a few moments and memories, and it's kind of becoming too big, and I can't even find like that's one because I keep getting expired. But what it is completely free, and it's resources. It lists your resource, actually LSVT. It
Mhm.
lists all different national, international. I was shocked to find out after 2 years after my mother passed. I only thought about the U.S. because that's what affected me. Realized there were
Mhm.
about 1 million people in the U.S., but then I was kind of my jaw fell to the floor when I found out and discovered something beautiful called the World Parkinson Congress, and then
Mhm.
my eyes and heart grew, and I ended up becoming family with people around the world. I've interviewed 3,000 people, written many from your organization who I love. And I do feel
Mhm.
like we all must be a family in this fight to bring awareness to
Mhm.
people who are aware, but even more importantly, people who aren't aware. I also have we've done several shows. It's becoming a TV channel. One's a sports broadcast with a fellow individual named Tim who is battling Parkinson's, where we interview sports athletes around professional, around the country to show that you can actually slow the progression through sports. We also have just started, which I'm really proud of, the Parkinson's Policy podcast, where Margaret Preston from Power Over Parkinson's and I are co-hosts, and we just started a show where we have really legislators, so our representatives on, and we discuss policy. And also, we just released today, which is ironic, our timing to meet. We had the former director of the NIH on, which took me 1 year to get him on, but it was an honor to be able to speak to the people who are literally in charge of funding a cure. Just
Yeah.
some of the experiences, the people I've met, like you and your audience, the things you're all doing just truly inspire me and touch me to want to never give up. Also,
Mhm.
it's a lot of things. I mean, we have a little bookstore of our own. I'm excited because just a week or two ago, we released my probably final, you shouldn't say that, but it might be because I've done 8 now, but my final book, and it's actually called
Oh.
I Love You, Grandma Sharon. And it's a journey, it's a children's book, and it's a journey of my daughter, Brooke, and my mother. My first book was a son's journey about my mother and my caregiving, but I've done a few in between. But the last one for now is so important to me because I have 3 children, and I often don't know what to tell them as to why their
Mm.
grandmother is no longer here. So, be able to support us. We donate 100% to all the different organizations, and I have receipts so everyone can be sure. Because I'm a lawyer and a cop and very ethical, and I want to make sure people know we, support you all. We support a
Mhm.
lot of organizations. I had the honor to be selected by the Michael J. Fox Foundation and to go to Washington to the Capitol last March, and
Mm.
we're honored to go back again just to speak to representatives and urge them to fund research toward a cure, to ban toxic chemicals, and also to move the national plan forward. Since unfortunately it's a different show, I guess, but it's been a
Mm.
year now, and there's been no movement.
Wow. So you do everything in the area of Parkinson's. Yeah.
It's
Connecting
still,
resources,
yeah,
advocacy. Yeah, that's
some days,
amazing. I can
some days I feel like I'm still not doing enough, unfortunately.
Well, I can see how you say that you don't get much rest because, yeah, of all the work that you're doing. So I'll make a note that children's book is really neat. I'll get the link from you and put that in our show notes for
Okay.
listeners who want to take a look at either of the books that you've done.
And if anyone is listening at this moment and puts LSVT in the box when you order one, we'll give 100% to LSVT because, again, I don't want anything but bring awareness. Many children, families are out there that just are in a little shock but not sure what to say. And if this tool
Hmm.
or resource can help, I have to obviously sadly pay for the shipping and the printing, but anything else, 100%. Again, we'll give receipts, can go to all of you. So, but they have to please put LSVT when you do order.
Okay, well, that's amazing. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, we're happy to spread the word and help however we can.
Thanks.
So I wanted to talk a little more on your story. So I imagine that being a son and caregiver at the same time could be very complicated. And so, as your mother's Parkinson's progressed and her needs changed, how did your relationship with her shift? And what do you think surprised you the most along the way?
I think the most interesting thing was that she only felt safe when I was around, which was touching but
Mm,
difficult because I had to be there a lot. My job is not easy as a police officer, a reserve now, office, a lawyer, and a professor. A lot of my work was online, so I could kind of work it around
mm,
where I help her. But also because of Parkinson, she didn't sleep, so we had to. The last
mm,
year was very difficult. We spent $12,000 a month just to hire staff because she never wanted to be put in a home, and I swore I wouldn't. But that brought a
mm,
lot of issues. She, with hallucinations and delusions, she didn't believe, she didn't trust anyone. She thought people were going to harm her. So I went,
mm,
I kind of feel like if there's a way to coin a term, that I had something called, I made up, which could be not real, but secondary Parkinson's, which is something that I kind of thought about in the world of law enforcement. We have a term called secondary victims where people who lose a loved one due to murder or crime become secondary victims. Well,
mm,
I feel like I'm kind of a secondary Parkinson's, not patient, but because I held my mother through everything from the beginning
mm-hmm,
to the end. And although I don't have the diagnosis, I felt every single movement, whether dystonia, whether, her fear, whether everything you could imagine. She unfortunately had everything except only
mm,
towards the end the external tremors, but whether it was voice, whether it was handwriting, gait, you name it, she unfortunately had every symptom that we show on the scale. So it
mm-hmm,
was definitely, again, I felt fear, anxiety, stress, depression,
mm,
because I was brought up as and in my field of law, kind of make a little list and you don't, not like, and you check it off because you accomplish each thing and then you go to the next issue. But these were the lists for Parkinson's and helping my mother.
mm,
Never really checked anything off. We just kept struggling. And when I thought we actually could find something for one symptom, another one creeped in.
mm,
So I feel again, even today, 6 years later, still not, mentally, emotionally well. But the only thing that does get me through the day is being on the shows like this with you, advocating, going to, Unity Walk with LSBT and hugging the representatives there and seeing people at the walk and being able to, laugh, cry, and just
mm,
know that you're not alone.
mm-hmm. Well, and as someone who's so close to this, you walked alongside your mother and, you're talking about feeling a lot of the same things. What do you think the public still misunderstands about Parkinson's? Maybe especially the parts that people don't necessarily see.
And in doing my show, about now 400 episodes, I said I do one show a month, and it's been only like a few 6, 7 months I've done 400 because everyone
Oh my
inspired.
gosh.
But well, I mean, not really from my story, my mother, which I can get back to, but from just generally, I think there's a big misconception that Parkinson's is an elderly man disease, and one thing we try to fight is the misconceptions on my show called Q&A with Sharon son George, where I go one on one with different individuals. We've had some incredible guests from celebrities to people diagnosed to, I mean, just the other day we had a gentleman who I now consider family, and we both cried together because he's
Mm,
my age, he's 48. He was diagnosed a year ago, and it's really, he's having trouble telling his children. And I just put my, self in his seat for a moment, even though he can't, you have different journeys. But we also have researchers, scientists, and one thing about that, people I like that people in the lab on because I don't think a lot of people realize how people are researching 24/7, and they are
mm,
making some great innovations, but it's not every day you're in the lab. People at park, we're at home having our life, so I just want to bring them hope. But those are some of the areas and things that I think that we can still have some excitement and positive because there's so much negative, with the disease.
mm-hmm. So yeah, and with that collaboration, so I know you work with clinicians, therapists, researchers. So what do you think that meaningful collaboration between advocacy groups and healthcare professionals looks like from your perspective?
I think it's important that everyone has conversations, and if there's something wrong, I like to point it out or bring it up.
Mm,
I have a blog called Tackling Tough Topics where I cover really tougher situations that some people don't like when I do it or don't want me to. But I like that's why I do love the Together for Sharon and that I'm a lawyer because you should never be silenced. Everyone has a voice. Unfortunately, but
mm,
as you know, because of Parkinson, some people can't speak anymore. They lose their ability to speak. So we should have someone to be a voice, and that's what I try to be. And I feel if we
mm,
talk about these situations, whether the lack of care. I know many people who have been diagnosed are upset with their medical professionals because they'll see them once every year or 6 months. Some people don't even have one within 3 hours. So it's just very tragic, but so many interesting topics that we're not discussing enough. But I think by bringing these up, talking about them like today, really are making better progress, and we can tackle these
mm,
situations rather than just ignore them. But I don't think there's honestly a topic on my show we haven't discussed, from
mm.
medical marijuana to death with dignity to happier times. But if anyone listening wants me to cover a topic or have a
Mm.
guest on, I'm always open and willing. We've had Bernie Kosar, who unfortunately the legendary football player, he's battling Parkinson's. He's been on the show. We had Olympics ice skier Scott
Mm.
Hamilton on the show, and he's battling cancer, not Parkinson, but he's been a huge support. So the word is definitely getting out. We have a section under media, and you click messages of hope. We've had 30 messages from really incredible individuals like Jennifer Gardner for Parkinson's awareness, and Muhammad Ali's daughter, Jack Osborne,
Mm.
and Ozzy's son. So we are definitely reaching the world, but
Mhm.
I don't want anyone even out. It's shocking that Parkinson doesn't discriminate, but affects people whether you're young, old, gender, race, religion doesn't matter. I've interviewed people from Africa to India to Australia and to Norway, and it's just fascinating that people are still battling this disease worldwide.
Okay, well, again, thank you for all this tireless, effort that you're making. What I wanted to ask now is, when you look ahead, what gives you hope for the future of Parkinson's care and advocacy?
I think the community gives me hope. I'm excited that
Mm,
I'll be at my first ever World Parkinson Congress in
mm,
May. And that's I just joke and say I don't know how I get down the corridor the whole way because I think 3,000 people might be there that I've interviewed, and just no, I'm sure I'll be crying because even talking to you is not easy, not because of you, but I was joking say I'm 6'2", 200 pound law enforcement, and I'm pretty tough, but when it comes to my mother, it's still not easy to discuss. So I just feel like the people in the community bring me hope and also a reason to want to keep fighting. So I'm excited for that, but also to continue to learn from the scientists, the data, and also the incredible individuals working 24/7 around the clock advocating toward a cure.
Okay, well, I know we'll have some representatives at the World Parkinson Congress too, and I know they'll stop you in the hall, so we look forward to seeing you there.
Thank you.
And for those in the audience who have Parkinson's or are caring for someone with Parkinson's, what message would you most want them to hear right now?
That they're never alone. There are individuals like me who unfortunately might have lost their loved one, best friend due to Parkinson's. It doesn't mean we're going to stop. I'm going to continue 24/7, literally. If you join me at togetherforsharon.com, you can subscribe for free, can advocate together. I share everyone's journeys if they're interested. For those who want to, be public, for those who don't, you still have a lot of reading to do and a lot of, interesting shows that you can watch. But I only do this again if I know everyone out there not just cares about it, but is inspired too, because I don't think I get through my days without knowing everyone out there, is benefiting from some of the advocacy. And I also never want people like my mother or anyone to ever be forgotten only because they lost their battle.
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, that's so touching, and it's amazing, again, the connection that you're forming for people and sharing and really doing everything that you can. And what would you say that you're most proud of when you look at Together for Sharon today?
I mean, I think memories and remembering. I mean, just today I posted recently a picture of me and my mother dancing at my wedding, and that was one of the moments that, although she was battling Parkinson's can never take that from me or our family. In that
Mm-hmm.
small moment or two, we were dancing to her favorite artist, Barry Manilow, I Am Your Child, and those 2 minutes, Parkinson didn't exist and didn't matter. And it's a moment, again, that I cherish and can never be taken. So definitely, be with your family, be smile, laugh. We used to fight every Sunday, my family, over what restaurant we're gonna all order from because no one agreed on the food, and it was like literal wars, like crazy stuff. And now on Sunday it's literally silent, so it's not. I miss it. And also, my mother loved her three grandchildren, and we had a spot in my backyard where they would blow bubbles on Sundays, and that's like I walk by now and they're not doing that, and it's heartbreaking. So those are some of the tougher times. But I don't think I'd be able to even function in life if it wasn't for all the incredible family now I have around the world. Who some are diagnosed, some are family, some are care partners, caregivers, some are organizations, and some just want to make sure that they also not never forgotten, but also have support. And the
Mm-hmm.
nice thing is in this virtual world, advocacy doesn't cost a penny if you don't want it to. You can just turn something on, send an email message, contact your representatives. But we all have to be, I feel, family in this fight for a cure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was so beautifully said. And yeah, it might not have been a family you were expecting, but it's the Parkinson's community is amazing, and it truly feels like a family, everyone working together for the same common goal. Well, and how can listeners get involved or support your mission that you're doing?
Yeah, they can reach out to their representatives and try to help and explain how important it is to have legislators involved to be talking about Parkinson's awareness, have them contact their legislator to come on our show, the Parkinson Policy Podcast, and we'll ask them the questions they want to hear and might not
Mhm.
want to ask. Also, just sign up the newsletter again once a month. I don't send spam. I'll send free copies of my books too. Ebook we're now offering free completely. Actually, somebody was so amazing in Spain. One of someone I interviewed. I don't know why, but she volunteered. Took my Voice as a Resilience book, which is actually a book where I put interviews of people battling PD around the world, so people could read and know they're not alone. She took the book,
Mhm.
and it was probably like a 200-page book, and transcribed the whole thing into Spanish for
Wow.
free. So now we
Mm,
offered it on my website completely free. There's no charge. So if anyone out there in the Spanish world, my wife's Cuban. I'm, New York, Brooklyn guy. Never, I'm not a Spanish speaker too well. I did take it for 10 years, but we have to include everybody. And unfortunately, this is all very expensive. We don't really ask for funds, but supporting us through buying books and things helps.
mhm.
And but then we end up donating it all back. So it's not, it's just hard putting out books and podcasts because it is
Yeah.
so expensive. But really,
Mhm.
just joining in, like us on every social media under Together for Sharon, and you can see us on the Together for Sharon podcast page on Facebook. I never knew you can have reviews. I never really believed much in them, but I decided why not ask a few friends. And just in 2 days, we have over 50 reviews of the show from people
Oh.
who've gone. And it's really beautiful to kind of read it on the tough days. I look back and see that and realize that, there's a reason we're still doing this. But I'd rather, we find a cure tomorrow and then I can kind of go back to criminal justice.
Yeah. Yeah, all the other hats that you wear.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'll put in the show notes, I'll make sure I have all the links. I know I have your website link, but I'll get the social media links too so that people can connect however is best for them. And then before we wrap up, I just wanted to give you the last word. So if there's anything that you wanted to share with the audience about the organization or Parkinson's or whatever's on your mind.
Thanks. So I do want to start again as we started, or finish as we started, that LSVT means a spot, but a special place in my heart. You've always been more than willing to do written interviews, come on my show as a
Mm,
guest, the things you all do. And I got to, I always say if one person sees my show, each show, that's all I want,
mm,
because we've changed the world for the better. But I also get upset when someone might not have heard of LSVT and the inspiring work you all do, and that's why I do my show. If you ever watch my show or anyone listening, the whole show is about my guests. I share their website, I share everything, their story, nothing to do with me. Because again, there could be somebody like my mother or me who would have really benefited from LSVT and the work and the trainings and the speech. Even myself, I don't have Parkinson, but when I was smaller, I thought I had a speech impediment. And even today, sometimes I'll mumble, but I've got to the point where I've been successful in law and police. So if someone doesn't like it by now, they don't have to be my friends. But I just think that the things you offer are so incredible. But there's someone sitting there right now that might not be aware. And when we team up, I feel our voices are so much stronger. And when I wrap up my show, I always end with this. We love you, we support you, we care a lot about you, and you're never alone. I, along with our incredible guest, I was going to say co-host, of you spent an incredible show today, and your show and your beautiful audience. I feel together we advocate. Our voices are so much stronger. And I always kind of end with, I'm just getting started, because although I've done this for 6 years, and not a day I don't think many times about my mother and how she would be right by my side if it wasn't for Parkinson's. Some days I feel, whether it's politics, health, or just life, and my own health, maybe it's time to wrap up, and maybe I've done enough. But then I look to LSBT Global, to you, to all your supporters and everyone out there, and realize that I can't give up. We still have work to be done until there's a cure at everybody's doorsteps around the world. You can be sure I'll be fighting right by your side.
Aw, well, thank you. That's so beautifully said. We appreciate your support too, and you're so right. And it's in line with our theme of, the more voices, the more you amplify, the more you can make a difference. So we're so glad to connect with you and, share your story and amplify your voice around our audiences, and all the work that you're doing. So thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate your time. I'll wrap up with just some credits to make sure we're thanking those who made the show possible. So again, a big thank you. So Dr. George Ackerman and Together for Sharon. Like I mentioned in the show notes, I'll put his website and social media channels Together for Sharon right there.
We just got this.
So there, you'll know you're at the right place if you see that logo there. To make sure that people can get in touch with you and also your children's book. So we'll make sure that's all there. I also wanted to make a quick note about the theme song that you hear in our podcast. So you hear that at the beginning and the end, and that's called Think Loud for Parkinson's by Kindred Spirit and Leo Sayer. It was a song and video inspired by LSVT Loud speech treatment, and it was developed to raise awareness for Parkinson's worldwide. It's available for download and streaming on all major music platforms, and proceeds benefit the UK charity Cure Parkinson's. And so I'll put a link to that video under the show notes as well. I also want to thank our production team, CS Design Studios. They do all the behind the scenes work to make the podcast possible. And if you're interested in learning more about LSVT Loud speech therapy or LSVT Big physical or occupational therapy, or you want to locate a therapist in your area, you can visit our website at lsvtglobal.com. And then I encourage you to click subscribe wherever you get your podcasts so that you never miss an episode. And we look forward to thinking big and loud with you again next time. So thank you for joining us.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I speak